Exceptional Randos show is produced live in Sunroom Studios Base Capsule and in partnership with KLST 103.5, RadioCallisti.org. Remember to catch our Exceptional Randos live stream on YouTube every Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a story, idea, or question that you would like to share, we want to hear from you. Thanks for listening.
Well, that was random. Exceptional Radio.
Good afternoon. It is the 25th of April, 2021. And all is, man, this return to normal has been so fucked up. I'm like,
hey, real quick.
Yeah.
Can we give a shout out to whoever, what's the dude's name that wrote the music for the Falling track?
Oh, Johnny Hassel. Matt Weldon.
That track is, I've listened to that I don't know how many times, and it's still fucking awesome. So shout out to that dude for writing really good music real quick before we launch into the show.
Oh, is it, in that vein, Matt actually did a live stream, like a live stream German bass performance, which I believe is somewhere on his SoundCloud for, I don't think it's Johnny Hassel anymore. It might still be Johnny Hassel. Actually, you know what? I'm going to look this up really quick. Because, yeah, you're right. He created, you know, our theme song, and it, you know, you're also right. We've listened to it at this point probably 1,000 times, and I just don't get tired of it.
Yeah, it's still really good. It's just a really good song. I mean, that's where I'm like, man, let's just take a pause and recognize that dude for doing something that's like truly awesome. Because it's like, no, it's not that easy to write a song like that. And it's like the track itself, when you hear it the first time, it's like, okay, I got it. But when you hear it like 1,000 times later, you're like, oh, this track is still awesome, you know? And it's like, you can't really say that about a lot of tracks.
Yeah, I haven't gotten tired of it.
He's going by Psyjinx now. Psyjinx. And it's Psyjinx 3K is the SoundCloud link. SoundCloud.com Psyjinx 3K. And I've posted that to our Facebook. And I'm going to add that to the YouTube as well. But yeah, no, Matt, I've known Matt for a long time. I met him when I was right out of high school, and he and one of his buddies, one of my other really good friends, Patrick, they are like instrumental in my love of drum and bass music. I think Matt actually gave me the first like drum and bass mix tape that I ever listened to, and that I rolled around in my in my '89 Caravan for. I think I listened to that tape until it started to, you know, stretch and started to get all weird, and then I couldn't listen to it anymore. And I killed the tape. I wish I had that now. Actually, now that I think about it. There was this one track that had this fucking like church bell that sounded like it was way off in the distance, and you could, I mean, it was only really audible if you had it like up to level. But there was this like bell, and I remember at one point I was driving, and it was the first time I noticed it, and I kept hearing it, it started getting louder, and I'm driving, it's like, where the fuck is this bell?
Well, it's funny to go back and listen to old drum and bass. I mean, I never stopped listening to older drum and bass, but some of the stuff that, you know, you let go for a decade or so, and then you go back and listen to it, you're like, oh my God, no wonder this was so good. You know, it's still good. But then there's stuff that there's reasons you put it down when like drum and bass tracks used to be like 7 minutes long. Man. And they wouldn't drop the bass until like 3.5 minutes in. And
I was listening to like all 2 hours of Timeless the other night, and I think the first track is like 10 minutes long. I can't tell. You know, it might actually be 2 or 3 different tracks, but the first section of it's like a good 10 minutes where it just pulls you in.
The time when Goldie and Bjork were dating, and then he got all like orchestral and symphonic with his sounds, and we're like, what the hell is happening? But it's just because Bjork is like that apparently, and makes dudes do crazy shit. It's like Erykah Badu and Andre 3000. It's like, oh, this dude, you thought this dude's music was crazy before. Just wait till he hooks up with this person. It's like, then they're on a different fucking planet. Or like when Nas hooked up with Khalees, it's like, hip hop is dead. He's like, I seen the light. Hip hop is dead. It's like when they broke up, he was never the same. It's crazy, man. These dudes like try to pretend that they're all gangster and shit, and then they meet the one and they're never ever the fucking same.
Well, there's it's long storied tradition of musicians writing songs about women that like wrecked them. I mean,
oh, for sure.
Like, I mean, there's a huge, long storied tradition of this. I mean, it goes way back into like the origins of music. Like a lot of songs are these like, what's the word? I can't come. It's like escaping me. Oh, it's a lament. It's like a lament. There's a lot of ballads that are basically a lament of the loss of someone's attention, and it's like, man, this has been going on forever. And then we get to like the blues era, and man, dudes are making deals with the devil so they could like have the skills to get the attention of that lady, and then they end up like, you know, caught up in a deal with the devil. And then we jump ahead to like rock and roll, and they start really talking about drugs and the glorification of the rock and roll lifestyle. And then somewhere in like the 90s, things changed, and by 2000, bands were like extra depressing. And that's kind of when I stopped paying attention to rock and roll. It got like way too depressing because, you know, people were dropping like flies from drug overdoses. And
oh, you're not just talking about actual emo.
No, I think emo is cosplay. I think that I mean, it's all like, cosplay. So is
glam.
Yeah. No, it's all cosplay at the performative level. But I think emo is one of those like generational reflective musics that emerges as a culture that has been feeding off of, you know, other music. And
it's not cosplay at first, but any culture that emerges gets eaten up by capitalism and turned into cosplay in order to make a profit. So this is why punk became an aesthetic when it was a culture at first. So now it's like there's punk culture and there's punk aesthetic. Both are valid, but that's only because capitalism turned punk into a cosplay.
Same thing with flower power and the hippie generation.
Exactly, 100%, exact same thing.
It even persists up until today. It becomes an aesthetic.
But I think it's really...
I mean, it's the... Sorry, go
ahead. It occurred to me that the version of rave culture that they commercialized doesn't look as much like raves as raves looked.
I think as soon
Are you talking about candy culture?
No, I'm talking about the Canadian, that whole Canadian like furry legged going out in like bikini stuff. That's pretty hardcore now.
Not really.
No, I mean, it was.
Not really. That's what I'm saying. I think you're like, you might not have been out in a while. That shit was like normal. Like,
no, I know that was normalized at one point.
But recently, I'm saying it like became, it's like the normal thing for people to be at parties with like furry boots and light up hula hoops.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like still, you know, because we're not like having parties, you don't see it. But if you go back to parties, it's still going to be around because the girls haven't thrown out their boots and hula hoops yet.
I think as soon as you see your aesthetic being advertised in a Halloween shop, I think you know.
Oh yeah, well that's like
it's been fully assimilated into the capitalist structure.
Yep.
Where as soon as you see every accoutrement necessary for you to dress up on your way to your favorite show available at Spencer's Gifts, then you know.
Yeah, man. I can't even go to a Spencer's, let alone get within like 100 feet of one without starting to break out and like in hives and zits and start reverting into a teenage form. It's fucked up. That place is like got the weirdest mojo. It's like dangerous. You go in there and you'll with like $20 and you'll end up spending $100.
It hypnotizes you.
Yeah. I
I'm
think
gonna send you a link.
They probably pump pure oxygen into the atmosphere.
well, I think it's because they've got like all the junk that people can get on the internet but don't know how to find on the internet. And so when you see that stuff, you're like, "Oh man, I want this. Oh, I want this too. I need this in my life."
Or they feel dirty looking for it on the internet.
Wait, but how is it cleaner to do it in person?
It's not, but that's the point. They go and make an experience of it by going to the mall where it's socially acceptable to get stuff like that, and then they put it in a bag and you walk out the door. And the checkout person or the cashier may or may not be judging you, but it doesn't matter because you went in.
Okay, so Sonic the Hedgehog and that LED face mask, that's like super rave stuff. But this other stuff is all just body paint and bikinis.
That's what I'm saying.
That's like
the stuff.
This is totally some burner. I want to go to Burning Man or
Right,
EDC or
that used to be what candy kids look like with a bunch of bracelets on top, and that's like what's common now.
no, man. Candy
like,
kids didn't really look like this. Not what
oh,
I'm
fuck
seeing.
yeah, they did. Fuck yeah, they did. You're thinking about the candy kids you hung out with. The candy kids that were most prevalent look like that. Like very few of the candy kids actually wore UFOs and like were what's the word? Conservative with their dress. Like most of the people at raves were like damn near like, that's what I mean. It was like a Burning Man inside in a lot of cases. And that's where, like, I don't know what you remember, but I can name a couple of people that you know, like, I'm not going to call them out, that you've actually dated that used to dress like this. You know what I'm saying? At parties. Down to like the pasties and shit. Yeah.
Wow, this stuff is pretty far out. They're definitely making a statement with this clothing.
Yeah, and that's where I'm like, I know our friends didn't necessarily dress like this, and we actually were like with the conservative raver crowd. And even down to like, oh, they used to call themselves Intella ravers because they would wear fucking sweater vests and ties to raves.
We wore sweater vests because they were keep your body warm and but didn't overheat your ass.
But but it was Intella raver. That's what I'm saying. That was the term for what you guys were doing, and into like, you weren't really hanging out with. I mean, I know I was there. We weren't really hanging out with the actual candy kids. Like the candy kids were in cuddle puddles. We were not in cuddle puddles with candy kids.
I mean,
like,
most of the cuddle puddles that I remember shoving, one of our associates into numerous times, they were all wearing hoodies. Some of them were wearing the same hoodie. Probably
in Ohio in the middle of the winter. I'm saying that's where I'm saying you have a very selective memory about this for. I think you're trying to sanitize it.
No, my dilemma with raves is that most of it blends into one really insane night, like a minutia of strobe lights and LEDs and lasers and fog machines and a bunch of rooms full of people that you have to navigate without stepping on people, but you can't help it because there are just people everywhere.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like something that still exists.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. It's kind of over now, right?
Oh, it's definitely over. No one wants to party in it.
It's over in the Midwest, but it's not over. Like I went to one in Florida, you know what I'm saying? They still have these parties everywhere, but in the Midwest, basically, because they banned them here. They're outlawed here.
Yeah.
Oh. They're 100. It's like Footloose.
Fun.
Yeah, it's Footloose here, man. They literally
nobody wants to party
it's
in a dingy ass warehouse anymore. Indiana. That shit's so fucking